Hello, this is Mackenzie Green. I am doing my naturalistic observation and reflection presentation for lifespan psychology for Colorado Christian University. For my naturalistic observation, I chose to do my observation in a school. This is a public tech high school for students in the 11th and 12th grade from around the county. These students can elect to come from their normal high school and spend 2.5 hours of their day at this school getting math credits and science credits, and also gaining the ability to get some certifications and some marketable skills for after they graduate high school. Adults in this particular classroom are an instructor and 2 paraprofessionals. The class itself is a mixture of lecture and skills. Activities throughout the day include lecture, small group discussion, and rotating stations of hands-on skill practice. I chose to observe a student in the 12th grade. He is a 17-year-old male, and throughout this presentation I will continue to refer to him as student. Next, I'll talk about some key takeaways and the reflection I found from this observation. As far as the physical development of student, definitely is adult-like. He's almost 18 years old and physically has developed normally for a teenage boy. Cognitive development, I found that this student tends to use reasoning with both heuristics and analytics. Heuristics meaning he tends to go with public opinion, with what his peers think. He's going to agree with them for the most part. However, he's developing critical thinking skills and uses analytics with his reasoning as well. And then with moral reasoning, I observed that he would fall under conventional moral reasoning, stage 3, as in Kale and Kavanaugh's book under Kohlberg's theory. Interpersonal norms, meaning that this student tends to like to make other people happy and tends to go for what the people around him would be saying as well. Some socio-emotional and interactive observations that I took away were first, adolescent thinking. This student exhibits some of the characteristics of adolescent thinking. For example, imaginary audience and illusion of invulnerability. I chose those two elements because I observed those 2 elements when I was in the classroom. As far as imaginary audience, this student stood out as seeming to like to make his table mates laugh, make the classroom laugh, and it seemed as if any time he would say something funny, he liked to look around and see if anyone else was looking. And then for illusion of invulnerability, when it was time for the students to share out information, he was talking about some of the risky things he likes to do and talking about skydiving, things like that. And that reminded me of the invulnerability where teenagers like to take risks and they feel invincible. As far as interacting with his classmates, the student seems to act based on reactions of approval or disapproval from his peers, again with the making jokes and interjecting commentary during the lecture. He seemed to kind of choose his actions based on what his peers thought. Occasionally he would feel angered or seemingly be angered if he were shut down by a teacher or if he were in disagreement with other students, and that was evidenced by an angry look on his face, or maybe walking away and swearing under his breath or things like that. However, for the most part, he interacted with the instructors positively. Some more takeaways that lined up with the research I did. Bushing and Craigie state that students who have classmates with prosocial behavior demonstrate higher prosocial behavior due to observational learning. Again, this just comes down to students who may naturally have more prosocial behavior kind of pull up other students around them and also promote prosocial behavior. And then Grover et al. States that schools can influence socio-emotional well-being, and this stood out to me because I think that teachers and paraprofessionals and other school staff have a really good opportunity to promote socio-emotional well-being, whether that is just being a safe place for students to be, being an extra listening ear, and being a positive role model in these students' lives. That can really be a make or break situation for a student. This particular student does attend an alternative high school when he's not in this particular class. And this alternative high school, unfortunately, has a reputation for being the quote-unquote bad kids. And he mentioned having some prior issues with anger, things like that. And so I speculate that might be why he attends this alternative high school. Additionally, this student does have a child of his own, and that can definitely contribute to socio-emotional well-being, whether that is just having extra responsibility or struggling financially, things like that. Some other struggles that adolescent students face in general are the balance between school, work, and social activities. Kale and Kavanaugh touch on this when they talk about students having jobs when they're in school and how that potentially can be a negative thing for them as they struggle to balance those things well. Adolescents also are being introduced to romantic relationships probably for the first time, and also self-esteem issues. Some personal takeaways that I came up with are that adolescents are going through a lot of cognitive, social, and emotional development, and that it's easy to forget that adolescents are not adults and that they do think differently because they still have a lot of development to do. It's important for caregivers, instructors, or any other adults in adolescents' lives to nurture positive self-esteem and pro-social behavior. Finally, a biblical application would be that the Bible places value on every stage of life, from infancy to childhood to adolescence to adulthood. No matter what stage of life, every person is valuable. We see that in Psalm 139, verse 14, when the psalmist says, "You knit me together in my mother's womb. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." Each person has value, whether they're in the womb still or if they're an adolescent struggling through lots of things. And then in Luke 2, verse 52, we see Jesus as a baby, as an adolescent. He grew in stature, wisdom, and in favor with God and men. We even see Jesus as an adolescent in the temple, teaching other people. And so it's important to remember that every life has value. Here are my references that I took from for this observation. Thank you for listening.